So the summer sales have finally arrived to War Thunder, and with it comes some pretty decent discounts, and that is what we're going to go ahead and talk about in today's Talking Head video. But before we go ahead and get started, I do want to go ahead and clarify a couple of things. The first thing being that this is entirely subjective. Just because I give my honest opinion on what I think about some of these discounts doesn't mean you should purchase this vehicle or the set of vehicles simply because I say so. And it really comes down to the circumstances that you find yourself in. Do you have the tree? Is this vehicle necessary? Will it ever be necessary for you? But really, this only applies to those who are trying to get the best bang out of their buck. And another thing too, should you decide to take my opinion and purchase a vehicle, use my 3% discount. It's over in the description below. It doesn't really add extra 3%, which is kind of a shame to be honest, or an extra 3%. But what it does do is it does support me as a creator. I still see 3%. You still get my discount. And this also applies to any creator who has a discount code, such as Jaguara, Oddballs, Fly Daily, Jean-Claude Von Schott, Wingling Dragon, and so on and so forth. And to keep this from being an unnecessarily long video of, say, maybe 25 plus minutes, I'm going to go ahead and condense it down to 5 of my top vehicles that I would recommend to you. Also, another thing is that this discount is kind of unusual. If you pick up multiple vehicles, you will get each of those 25% added onto it. So if you pick up 2 vehicles, each of them are worth about 25% off. You get 50%. If you add a third vehicle, I believe it's another 25% or 50% in total of every vehicle or every total purchase you make, if that entirely makes sense. It's kind of weird how Gaijin did it this time around. And last thing, 2 vehicles will be disappearing at the end of this. The Yak 38 as well as the Japanese Sabre. These are 2 premium vehicles that will be gone from the store once the sale ends on the 4th of July. So keep that in mind should you decide if you want to go ahead and pick up those vehicles for maybe, say, collector's purposes. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about our very first pick, the Tiger II SLA 16, a German premium sitting at battle rating 6.7. This is a Tiger II through and through. It has all the capabilities as the Tiger II-H you would find in the game. It does have a different engine. I don't know if it's any better. I honestly really do forget, to be honest. But it does have the same capabilities as the same armor, same mobility for the most part, and the same amount of firepower, which is absolutely brilliant. This is a vehicle that can fight up to 7.7, and should you get a 5.7 down tier, oh, not too many things are going to be able to fight against you very well. But keep in mind, this is a relatively slower vehicle, but is probably one of the most balanced for its BR, hence why it takes the #1 spot. And up next is the IS-6. This is a Russian heavy tank that has one hell of a gun. It also has some pretty damn good mobility. It's one of the few Russian vehicles that can really reverse very well, but keep in mind, just because you have a 122mm gun doesn't mean it's that much better than, say, your other counterparts sitting around the battle rating 7.3. This vehicle does have a tremendously long reload for that gun, but should you penetrate anything that you look at, it's usually almost a one-shot, as that 122 is not a forgiving shell type towards your opponents. Also, you have no gun depression, so keep that in mind, and your armor can be kind of countered if they do get behind you. The back of your turret is incredibly thin. The turret face is a little wonky as well, but it can be trolly at the best of times. And next up is the vehicle that is apparently the mascot of this entire video, the CV90-105 TML. This is a Swedish 9.0 premium vehicle that has some really good capabilities. You have Generation 2 thermal sights for both the commander and the gunner, but the gunner does have a fixed sight. You fire M735 and DM23 alongside some heat and HESH rounds, but you generally don't want to use those anyway. And it does have a tremendous amount of mobility. This is a very fast vehicle, but the downside of this vehicle is that you have no armor. You have about maybe 10, 15, 20 millimeters on the most crucial places. So the moment anything looks at you and shoots you, you're pretty much dead. And yes, BMP-2Ms will make a snack out of you very quickly. But given that this is a highly mobile vehicle, it's one that I would most certainly recommend to those who kind of want to experience more of the Swedish high tier. And next up is the French AMX-30 Super, a highly mobile premium 9.0 vehicle that has a lot going for it. It has really good firepower. It has, again, excellent mobility, great reverse rate. I mean, that's pretty French. I'm sorry. I have to make those jokes all the damn time. I know some of you guys get mad at me for it, but Anyways, it's a very good purchase in my opinion. Great firepower, Generation 1 thermal sights for the gunner only. Its armor is kind of a black hole. For some reason, I have bounced off so many shots on this vehicle, which is kind of unusual, but you'd be surprised at the survivability of this vehicle, assuming whoever is shooting at you doesn't really know what they're doing. And yes, I have my moments too. So would I recommend it? Absolutely, as the Leclercs are brilliant vehicles at 11.0. And last but most certainly not least is a vehicle that I am kind of hesitant to add into this list, but it has to be said, and that is the Russian Ka-50, a helicopter that is the absolute bane of my top tier experience. Those Vickers missiles are unbelievably efficient. They are great, not only against ground vehicles, but other aircraft. Now, look at it like this. If you have another helicopter within 8 kilometers in your sight, they're dead. Pretty much. There's nothing they can do to dodge it. Flares won't help. Nothing unless they hit the terrain or they hide from you, which is going to be highly unlikely because the moment you see them, they should be your priority. Plus, it does have Eagle air-to-air missiles, but they suck compared to those Vickers missiles. Now, if you want to have probably one of the best purchases you can make, that is most certainly going to be that vehicle, at least not until you hear what I have to say at the end. So I know what you're thinking. Hey, Justin, how come you didn't talk about the Terms or the XM1 or the L44? Now, in truth, I do own many of those vehicles minus the L44, so I can't give a solid opinion on it. But what I can tell you is that right now, battle rating 9.7 is incredibly saturated. There are tons, and I mean tons and tons and tons of players that are just spamming out these vehicles in droves and leaving after the first death. Now, it's kind of hypocritical for me to say that as a content creator. I do that on occasion as well, but I do it with more of a purpose rather than leaving because I don't have the vehicles at hand. So I had to keep this list very short for you guys, and I didn't want to go ahead and add those because I felt those vehicles are a little bit too common and they kind of result almost all the time in a loss of your game, assuming you're on the opposite team farming them, but it really comes down to your own matter of, well, I guess, gameplay and perspective. So there you have it. Those were my 5 picks of what vehicles you should be picking up in the War Thunder sale. Now, please keep in mind, this is entirely subjective. You may not need this. You probably do. You probably don't. I have no idea. It really comes down to what you are looking for and your current experience in War Thunder, because these are vehicles that, well, at least some of them require you to have an understanding of War Thunder. I would never recommend, as a brand new player, you should purchase any of these top tier vehicles, because all it does is it will create frustration for you and for others around you. Because if you're someone who just started the game and has no idea on what they're doing, I would recommend one of 2 things, which is, or actually 2 things in general, which is either watch videos and understand how to play those vehicles, what to expect from them, maybe on my channel, maybe in others. And the second part is to wait until you understand the game, at least to some extent. I would say about around battle rating 5.7 is when you really get to understand how War Thunder is played like, and maybe if this game is really for you, so maybe you don't have to spend that money unnecessarily. But to those who already play War Thunder, there you have it. Those are my opinions on what vehicles you should pick up during the sale. But how about we do something different? I want you, as the experienced player, to go down in the comment section and list your own vehicles you would recommend. Put some detail in there and let some players who are kind of hesitant on this video, at least from my opinion, on why they should purchase that vehicle you would recommend. Or maybe you would recommend not to purchase anything because you, for some reason, hate War Thunder. Which, what are you doing in this video? Just saying. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for you. Thank you so much for checking this out. Again, don't forget to use my 3% discount. I do have some channel subscriptions here for my YouTube. If you guys want to go ahead and support outside of War Thunder, there's my Patreon and everything else for that matter. And if you want to see this gameplay live, you know where to find me over on Twitch. Link is down in the description below as always. And I will see you not only in the next video or even the streams, but in War Thunder itself. Until next time, happy sales.